Welcome to Green Carpet Interviews. Let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Green Carpet Interviews, the show where we explore conscious living, healthy choices, and a greener world. I'm your host, Deji Bankole.
And I'm Akindele Bankole.
Let's dive in. So today we have a very special guest, Coach Robert Moore, who is a life coach. I'm going to let him sort of explain because I've got a lot of questions for him about a lot of the things that he's doing. But I'm gonna hand it over to him, and he can give us his 2-minute bio for those people who don't know who he is and who are going to know who he is after this, and maybe start following. Anyways, okay.
Yeah, very
So,
shortly.
Coach,
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you both for having me on your platform. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story. I'm Coach Robert Moore, your favorite plant-based fitness and nutrition coach, and I'm on a mission to help people reverse and prevent the chronic diseases that take us out too early. My story is very personal to me. I've been on this plant-based journey for the last 9 years, and what started me was the loss of my mother to her cancer bout, to her fight with cancer, her second round. This was back in 2013. In 2014, my very first son was born. So it was very hard not having those two meet each other. And because I knew I was predisposed to cancer because my aunt had it as well, plus the other health issues between both of my parents, I wanted to make sure that I removed all possibilities of me going down those same routes so that I could be the best father I could possibly be for my sons. Now, my journey goes a little bit deeper than that. I was vegetarian for 15 years prior to going vegan, and I kind of bounced back and forth between the pescatarian and vegetarian, depending on how money was at the time. And then I found out how inexpensive it is to eat plant-based or vegan, whichever term you want to use, and it's been up since then.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. And on your journey, what were some of the things that you had to research or look for or find out to be able to determine what things you're gonna use in your toolbox to be able to help people on their journey?
Absolutely. So my journey starts back in 99 when I graduated high school. I was still 115 pounds. And so I was on a mission to not be the skinny kid anymore. I got tired of being made fun of, saying that you only weigh 100 pounds soaking wet with boots on. So I dived into nutrition. I dived into physiology and really understanding the mechanics of working out. Over the course of the next 5 years, I was able to put on 30 pounds. So I fluctuated between 145 and 150. And so that's where a lot
Oh,
of my
nice.
base knowledge came from. And when I started to learn more about or do more research about the health things that sent my mother down the route and my father down the route that they were going, it's when it really clicked that it's the food. And so reading books like by Dr. Greger, Dr. Bernard, um, watching the documentaries, reading the research studies. Over the course of the last 3 years, I've helped over 100 people lose 20 pounds or more. I have a client who's been able to reverse her type 2 diabetes, a client who no longer has to get her weekly injections for her autoimmune issue that she was having. That's been reversed. And I have a client who's currently working on reversing his high blood pressure. So it's really been mostly self-taught. I'm currently doing some certifications to add a little bit more credibility to the knowledge that I have.
That's awesome.
Oh,
That's
that's
really
it.
great.
Thank you. That's great. Wow.
Um, it's interesting because I've heard stories of people getting a diagnosis and then doing all the research and then figuring out how to reverse it on their own, even after being told that you're not going to be able to get out of this. This is a lifelong thing. They're able to do
Right.
it on their own. And from your past of loved ones getting that same diagnosis and maybe feeling as though you're not able to help them. What sort
Mm.
of like, I guess, where did that sort of begin? That like deep research and that.
So the research came because I needed to become the best version of myself for my sons.
Got it.
The reason
I
that I
see.
was able to start helping others, a coworker and good friend of mine, he was over 6 feet, almost 300 pounds, and he couldn't get down in the floor to play with his daughter. And so he asked me for help.
Mm,
So I created a meal plan and a fitness program that helped him lose 25 pounds in 90 days. That's when the light bulb and the light switch went off for me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, not what I was doing previously. And so from then, I
mm,
just dove in and started to spread my message. And I used the information that I read to work with more people. And I started my first 90-day program, and I used a few people as a beta to make sure that it was actually working for across the different spectrum of people. And when I saw them getting the results, I released it to the public. And here we are 3.5 years later.
Wow, it's
nice.
amazing. It's amazing. And so when you help clients, do you have an in-house studio or standalone studio, or do you actually go to your clients, or do they come to you? How do you get to meet with them, or do you do online services as well?
Great question. So I got started right before the pandemic, and so my business started to
Mm,
grow as the pandemic hit. So I built
yeah.
my platform completely
Ah,
virtually. I don't. I only have one client that I actually work with in person, and that's just a personal training. Because when I got into this, I didn't get in here into doing this to trade time for money, like I was leaving my corporate job for. I wanted the ability to have the flexibility and the freedom to raise my children while still helping people. So my sons are
Mm,
homeschooled. I was a full time dad since me and my ex wife separated. So it was really built around me creating the life by design.
mm,
oh wow, that's awesome.
that's
Wow,
great.
that's amazing.
Plus, I
That's really
didn't want to
So
good.
be
cool.
limited by geographic area.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You can reach more people actually. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, uh, the demographics that you actually that you work with the most, are they young, older, men, women? What would you consider those demographics
So
to be specifically for you?
most of, about yeah, about 80% of my clients are women. Most of them are over the age of 40 or have been 35 to my oldest client was 65. Actually, I think my
Mm,
oldest client now is 70. Somebody that just
nice.
joined one of my courses. And it's
That's awesome.
been mostly women in that age spectrum. So, and I think that's just because of who resonates with me. A lot of people say I
Mm.
seem like the cousin, the nephew, the son, that person that's relatable. You just feels like family. And
Yeah.
my goal is to make things make sense. So I use big words sometimes, but I use them only in a way so that things make sense to people and it clicks. So
Mm,
Mm.
I go deep enough, but I do it while connecting the dots along the way,
mm-hmm.
because I think
Mm.
that's where a lot of people get stuck. Is there's so much information, there's information overload, and then there's conflicting information, so people don't know what to actually do. So my
Mm,
goal is
Mm.
to make it simple so that you know exactly what steps to take from here, so you can go from A to Z without missing any steps.
nice.
I see.
So you make it accessible for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do want to kind
Yeah.
of ask about the like the things that you've been able to sort of reverse. So can you talk about that a little bit more?
Perfect. Well, let's start with myself first. I was able to reverse my irritable bowel syndrome. It was something that I've been plagued with most of my adult life, but that was also because I was eating tons of protein powders to maintain the size that I was, a lot of
Mm,
gluten, a
Mm.
lot of those things. And so going plant based helped me reverse that. But it wasn't until a few years into plant based that I gave up gluten completely that things really started to
Mm.
reverse for me. Now I can tolerate gluten to some extent.
mm,
So that was me, and I got rid of my restless sleep. I had an overactive mind. Now my sleep is much better. My energy levels are up. Raising two plant-based children. Also, I have one client that has been able to reverse her type 2 diabetes. She's no longer under the doctor's recommendation for taking insulin. One of my clients is no longer under the doctor's recommendation for high cholesterol. Have one client that is currently on his way to being off of his high blood pressure medication.
mm.
Oh, let's not forget Mandy, who has reversed her autoimmune disease.
Wow,
Nice.
that's amazing.
So what are some of
That's
the key
incredible.
factors in people being able to reverse them? You know, like what? What are
So
you
it's
focusing on for each person?
absolutely. So I have a four move assignment for people. The first move is to remove the foods that are causing the ailment in the first place, the standard American diet, the overconsumption of ultra processed foods, dairy, meat, in that order. Because most people think that since I'm vegan or vegetarian or plant based, I'm going to tell you to remove meat first. You got to remove all, but the ultra processed foods have to go first because they're high in salt, oil, and sugar, and the
Mm.
oil is
Mm.
basically just liquid fat, and these are the things that disrupt your metabolic processes. The second step is to flood your body with nutrients, and the best source of nutrients are whole foods that come from plants.
Mm.
So when you're eating nutrients, that foods that are high in nutrients, now you're feeding your cells instead of your hunger. Because when we get hungry, it's not because our bellies are empty. It's not because we're craving calories. It's because our cells are looking for energy and they need those building
Mm.
blocks from the nutrients in the food.
Mm.
The third step is to move your body. It doesn't have to be strenuous workouts. That does help because it improves your metabolism, but you have to move your body every single day because we have a lymphatic system. Most people talk about the immune system. We don't have an immune system, we have an immune response, and that comes from our lymphatic
Mm.
system. And our lymphatic system is only activated through movement. And the lymphatic system is responsible for removing all the cellular waste or all the waste from the different parts of our bodies. That's why we have lymph nodes that stretch throughout our entire body, almost like our nervous system. And then the fourth, and almost just as important as the other three, is to have a healthy way to manage your stress. Because you can eat right, you can move your body, but if you're stressing and you're allowing those things to creep into your life daily and are under consistent cortisol and adrenaline, that's going to have adverse effects on your mental state, your hormones, as
Mm.
well as your heart.
Yeah, I
So
really love the
those are the
Great.
three core, the four core.
wow. I love the all encompassing sort of holistic approach to health and wellness in this way, because I think a lot of times we're focusing on you know being vegans, you're focusing on the food aspect of it, and I think that they're,
Yeah, so
as a
the
human
food and
body,
nutrition is
right?
super
Yeah,
important, but it's those other parts. Yeah,
right.
it's those other parts that really play a factor because it's not one thing that got you to where you were. It's the habits in general of
Mm-hmm.
how you lived your life. Most of the
Right.
diseases that trouble
Mm.
us as adults here in America and across the world are lifestyle illnesses. So it's not just how you
Hmm.
eat, but it's how
Facts.
you move, it's how you think, it's what you're consuming through your mouth, your ears, your nose, all of these good things. So we have to really take that holistic approach in order to see the long term effects instead of it just being a short term fix. Because my goal is not to teach people how to diet. My goal is to teach people how to eat so they never have to diet again.
Mm.
That's a good
That's
point.
great. I
Very
love
good point.
that.
Now, the other thing also, coach, is in this holistic process that you use in helping your clients, is there any spirituality that's also part of that, perchance? Or do you have any spiritual connection that you also incorporate into your teaching at all?
So, as far as the spirituality part goes, I'm a very spiritual individual, but because I know everyone has different beliefs, that is one that I don't address. Although it is super important because your connection with the universe, the creator, and that's why I don't talk about it because I don't want to step on toes and I don't want my message about my spirituality to cross somebody off the list from the help that they could have received.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and I guess in a way, is there any way that you get them psychologically attuned to what they're doing, or how do you make that happen? Rather than
Absolutely.
uh, get them on a spiritual journey, but is there any way that they're emotionally or psychologically attuned with that journey that they're on?
Absolutely. So, as a part of my course and my coaching, in my course, there's a video that speaks about mindset and how we have to shift how we see things in order for even the habits to stick because you are where you are because of the way that you were thinking. Or I should say, not you are. You take
Mhm.
actions based off of your feelings, and your feelings are based off of your thoughts. So, it's that whole circle of you have to fix how you're thinking before you can fix your action. And
Mm.
so that is addressed in my one on one coaching. through my 12-week program, and there's also a video for it in my course as well.
That's
Because
awesome.
mindset is the first thing we have to tackle, because we have to overcome the mind first. Because a lot of people get stuck in not even believing that they're able to change, because they feel it's hereditary. Mom had it, dad had it, somebody else. So this is just what's supposed to happen. And we have
Mm.
to dive in deeper and say, no, this is just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal.
All right, so I'm now in a baby's room. So for those of people who are watching me, I probably sound like I'm in a baby's room too. You can hear the little chime. No, you can't hear that. Okay. Uh, so so yeah. Go ahead and lead us in.
So 90% of my clients come from Instagram.
Hmm.
And the way that I promote myself is I present information, and I tell people that if they want help, to raise their hand by DMing me or sending me a keyword, so that I can send them information about the program. And then from there, so basically they've made up their mind. So I don't have to do much convincing,
Hmm.
because you've made up your mind that this is a solution that can help you. From there, it's just making sure that I teach them what accountability really means, because most people think that you can hold somebody accountable, but accountability is really ownership.
Hmm.
And so you have to take ownership of your own health, and using the steps that I give you will allow you to do that. First, by addressing your mindset, as we spoke about for a moment, and then starting to remove the foods and take the additional actions and build the habits that are going to sustain you long term.
Hmm. That's really great. I love the
Mm.
I mentioned this a little bit before, but I love the holistic approach in what seems like all aspects of your business. From dealing with clients um, to acquiring clients and via giving information out first.
Correct.
And if it resonates with people, then that's how they come
Mm, that's awesome.
into your circle. Um,
Yeah, I've done
Yeah.
sales for over 20 years before doing
okay,
this. And so I,
yeah,
I know what it
yes,
feels like to have to push somebody to do something. And
yeah.
my thing is that if I have to push you, or I have to pull you into the program, that means I'm going to have to pull you through the program. And I'm
Hmm.
old. I ain't got that much energy.
Yeah, there it is. That's great. I think it's such a I've yeah, you've been doing sales a lot longer than me, and I haven't really been doing sales that much, but I've done a little bit of marketing, and a lot of the things you're talking about is like all the things that I was learning, you know, about how to get leads and clients the best way,
Correct.
the most effective way, by just giving information out, and that being the thing. So, I mean, that's how we found you, is through Instagram. So, whatever you're doing is working. It's working well. So, um, I'm curious about, like, so you're doing the program now, right? At some, you said around, how old are your kids now?
My son is 8. He'll be 9 in a few weeks, and
Got it.
6. So 8 and 6.
Got it. So did your because that kind of coincides with your beginning of being vegan, right?
Yes,
Did
absolutely.
that
So
have anything to do with it?
that had everything to do with it. So when my mother passed, me and my ex-wife, well, I met my ex-wife after my mother passed. And so
Oh, I see.
I was reeling through that, and we were looking at some possible changes. But when she got pregnant, we looked at each other and said, we have to do something different, because not only did my family have health issues, her family had a history of health issues. So we both wanted to eliminate the possibility of going down that route.
Hmm.
So before my oldest started to eat solid food is when we made the transition to fully plant-based, and we basically went
Mm.
cold veggie. It was
Hmm.
easy for me in the beginning because she was a stay-at-home mom, so she took care of all the cooking and all of that part. Well, when we separated, I had to learn how to step into that role again. So I basically started from the beginning all over again.
Yeah, yeah. I love how you substituted cold veggie, right? That was good. I was actually thinking about that, not now, but I was thinking about that before. I'm like, how do I don't really like. I like the word, but I like the phrase, but I don't like the word.
Yep.
Anyways,
So yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've come up with a lot of different euphemisms that I used to use and just had to
Yeah,
change it over. And
Yeah.
I learned a new one yesterday when I was at an event. A
it's
lady was like
amazing.
two birds in one scone
Good. I
instead of
love
two
it.
birds in one stone, two birds
Yep.
eating one
Yep.
scone.
That's
So
another one too. Yeah, I love it. You know what? We'll get into this in the after show. We'll have to go through the whole gamut there. Um, so I do have a question about choosing to raise a kid plant based is a big decision, and it has a lot of implications for their life outside of you, right?
absolutely
What what sort of what do you feel like you are having to do differently that you're noticing other parents not having to do?
nothing.
Okay.
And it's only because it's not a forced thing, it's a lifestyle for me, so
Right.
they only know this.
Right.
And it was easy because before they were homeschooled, so they didn't have any outside temptation.
I see
Most
what
of
you mean.
my
Got it.
circle, of the people that I run with in my circle, are plant-based as well, so even when they
Mm-hmm.
go around their friends that are the children of my friends, they it's still it's what they know. So I
Mm-hmm.
really haven't had to do much different now that they've entered into regular school.
Mm.
um, it has changed a little bit, but that's only
Mm,
because now they know. But it's even better because they know what they don't want to. They know what they're not supposed to eat. Throwing up my air quotes, I don't like that word, but they know
Yeah.
what's in their best interest to eat. So they
Right.
avoid the dairy, they avoid the meat, and it's just that simple. So I guess the
Yeah.
one thing that I will say is finding convenient foods quickly. But that's when we
Mm-hmm.
just go to Chick-fil-A, grab some fries, and keep it rolling. Now we don't
Yeah.
do that often because there is
Yeah.
some negative effects in the food that Chick-fil-A has, but the one
mm,
benefit is their fries are cooked in completely different grease than their chicken.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, I think I'm just just curious about the parents like parents finding the ways to have a plant based household, and you know and what the implications of that is, outside of the household, and when they go out, when the kids go out into the real world, or
Absolutely.
not to the real world, just to the world, right? So
Yeah, and
like,
outside of the house where you can
right.
control things. So my advice to parents, because I get that question often, is, well, how do
mm,
you get your kids to transition? Your children are going to follow what you do.
Right.
Last time I checked, those little people don't have any money of their own, so
Mm-hmm.
they can only eat the food that you buy.
Right.
Now, when they go to school, there is the opportunity for them to eat more, but this is where explaining to them why you're doing what you're doing and why
Mm-hmm.
you eat what you eat versus just telling them they have to do it because you said so. Because when
Right.
you explain why, they understand and they see the benefit behind it. Because my
Mm-hmm.
son, my oldest now, will tell you, I don't eat meat because it's unhealthy. That's what led my grandma to pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has been able to associate because I explained to him why we eat the way that we eat, why we start our day with fruits, why we don't start to eat cooked food until noon. He knows these things, so you can ask him. He's like, yeah, we don't do this because of this. I don't want
Yeah.
to have high blood pressure. I don't want to have these things that are tied to these. So it's really just information and education.
Mm.
mm.
That's
It's
great.
awesome. I
Yeah, I
love
love
that.
that. I really love that.
Hmm. Now, in your vegan journey, or even building your business, because I'm sure you're probably learning different things in these two coexisting phenomena that you have. What are things that you think you've learned the most about your vegan journey? And what is that one thing that you'd say, wow, in your business that your business taught you over the years?
So two separate questions,
Right.
right?
So two separate questions. So the first question I'll answer: what has my business taught me over the separate years? Is that you have to keep going. Although you may not see the progress you think you want to see, you
Mm-hmm.
have to accept the progress that you are and keep and use that as the fuel to keep going. And I'll be very transparent. At the beginning of this year, financially, my business took a downturn for whatever reason. I think it like things just weren't moving the way that they were. However, I couldn't stay focused on that because there were so many other positive things going. Last year, before this year, I said that I want to do more speaking events. Well, I've done over 12 speaking events this year. So my
Nice.
Great.
notoriety, I've done more podcast interviews this year. So although
Mhm.
monetarily I wasn't growing at the pace that I wanted to, the notoriety, the exposure was growing, which has in helped in since turned things around financially. So
Mm.
it's just being
Mm.
able to, instead of being with your head down in the weeds, you have to look up and see the progress that you've actually made and accept it no matter how small it is. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as far
Nice.
as the biggest thing that I've learned in my plant-based journey is keep it simple. Keep it
Mm.
simple. The more complicated you make it, the harder it is to maintain, and the harder it is for you to explain to others why you do what you do. So when I say
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
keep it simple, everybody always uses the example that eating plant-based is expensive. No, it's not. If you go buy you a bag of quinoa, and I'm gonna keep it real simple. You can go buy you a bag of quinoa, buy you 2 bags of frozen veggies, go buy you a bag of lentils, and you've just created a meal for your entire family for $20 or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's
yep.
that's what I've learned is keep it simple.
So true. And
What are
even
your
just those three ingredients. So I was
You're going to
just
get
going
the
to
yeah.
say,
full you're going to
even
get the full
just
spectrum of all the nutrients that you need.
right, because just those ingredients will give you a full spectrum what you need, and you can do them, either saute them, you can make it into a soup. It's just amazing. Yeah, yeah, totally get that.
Boil
Yeah.
you
That's amazing.
broil the vegetables. Now you make a bowl. So those 3 ingredients you have so much flexibility, and then
Right,
you add in potatoes or your dark leafy greens.
right.
So there's so
Mm-hmm.
much different that you can do.
That's amazing.
What do you feel like your go to meal is if you had to choose any day?
A smoothie.
Okay.
My
That's
go-to
that's
my,
solid.
my, my go-to my go-to meal is a smoothie because it's quick and simple. Now, as
Yeah.
far as cooked food go, it'd probably be a lentil stew over quinoa. Because lentils are the bean that or the legume that can cook the very quickest. Lentils you don't actually have to soak because I oftentimes like to use dry versus canned just to reduce the sodium input and
Mm.
any possibility of BPA and all these different things that you can end up with if you're not buying the right source of canned goods.
Mm.
However, I don't want to deter people from eating canned goods. If that's all you have available to you, eat that, please.
Yep.
Don't listen to some of these internet experts who tell you don't eat canned foods, don't eat frozen foods, don't eat broccoli, don't eat garlic. It makes me cringe when I hear those things because all of them play a role, especially for somebody who's living in a food desert. And the only grocery store they have is a Walmart or a Family Dollar. I have
Right.
Mm-hmm.
a chef friend who last year made a Thanksgiving by going to make Thanksgiving dinner by going to the dollar store.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
all you
it
need.
can be that simple.
Yeah,
It can
Yeah.
be that simple. So yes,
that's awesome.
I definitely agree with you in terms of like putting up the barriers for because I feel like there's especially when it comes to making a switch over to a plant based diet. I feel like people hear something, it's like, oh, well, this thing is bad for you or whatever, whatever it is, like whether it's the can or whatever it is, right? And I think that they use that as an excuse to be like, well, I don't want to do that whole. I mean, it seems like it's too complicated to get into that whole. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's where it doesn't need to be, and
right.
you know maybe there's one part of it that is like not that good, but it's like you're what you're putting in your body versus what you could be putting in your body is just drastically different,
Completely,
right? Like
Hmm.
the way
absolutely,
you build it. Yeah. So
absolutely. And so on that same note, one of the things that I say is this is a spectrum where the way that I eat now is not the way that I eat when I first started my plant based
Mm.
journey.
hmm
So you're going to evolve over time. At the beginning, I was eating a lot more canned goods because I didn't know much. So I did that, but now I don't use them as often. I use them in convenience, especially when it comes down to cooking chickpeas. Chickpeas take a while to cook.
Yeah.
So if I don't have
hmm
the time to soak them, then cook them, I'll grab a can of
yeah,
organic, you know what I mean, that's
yeah,
salt free so that I can still have that convenience without actually having a convenience food
Yeah,
like
yeah,
fast food.
right.
So there's that spectrum, and that's one of the things that I say in my message is there are a lot of people in this space that tell you they're trying to get you to their level overnight when no,
hmm
it took you years to get there, And it's hard to explain to somebody that they have to do the same thing that you're doing when
Right.
they are full carnivore, full plant-based, full carnivore, full processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
And now you tell them to do a full 180, because changing your lifestyle, changing your habits is almost like trying to turn around an oil tanker in open ocean. Those
Right.
things
Yeah.
don't turn on a dime like a car.
Right.
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 Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of undoing of the past. I mean, you're rewriting all the things that you've learned from when you were young. I
Mhm.
mean, you get a lot of these
Exactly.
habits from when you were a kid, right? So, no,
Exactly.
I mean, it totally makes sense. Let's talk spices. We talked about the go to. Because I've heard you say a couple times you're reducing sodium, right? So
Right.
you're trying to reduce the amount of salt intake that you're putting in your body, right? So
Correct.
what are the types of spices that you're using on a daily or weekly basis?
So I am blessed to have a friend who makes his own spice blends. They're called Cherry and Sons,
Mm,
and he makes a bunch of different blends that are salt free. So those are some of my go tos. But I also have a cabinet full of smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder. Just the gambit is up there. Like my spice cabinet is just as crowded as my smoothie cabinet, because
yeah.
and some of the stuff is even old because I don't cook as much of the same things. But when you need it, you need it. So I have
Right.
I have a couple different curry spices up there. I like Indian flavored dishes, so I have some garam masala and a couple
Yep.
of different things. So it really just comes down to what I'm in the mood for, and oftentimes I find myself gravitating to some of the same ones just because it's, again, quick and simple.
Right. Yeah. So what's the significance of reducing, in terms of like health benefits and stuff like that? What's a significance of reducing salt and sugar intake?
So sodium is often tied to high blood pressure because sodium actually restricts your blood vessels. And that's why it's important to have a good balance of sodium and potassium, because whereas sodium constricts your blood vessels, potassium opens your blood vessels. And
Mm,
so that's why a lot of people will associate high blood pressure with sodium, but it also has effects on the amount of water that you're able to maintain. It dries your body out. And so people often are walking around chronically dehydrated. So you put that on top of additional sodium, and you have an issue for more metabolic disruption.
mm. Um, so do you mind talking a little bit about? I'm kind of going into the weeds here a little bit, but I think it might be kind of nice. But do you mind talking a little bit about hydration and the importance of that and how you can get more hydrated?
Absolutely. So most people have the misconception that water is hydrating them. Water is not hydrating you if you don't have the right mineral composite within your body. Water is meant to actually flush your body out. That's why you see me here. I have coconut water and I have fresh juice, because you need the nutrients for the liquids to be able to be absorbed into the cells.
Mm,
And so drinking water is great because you want to be able to flush your system, but you also want to incorporate fresh juices. You want to incorporate coconut water. Or, and here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize, you can eat your hydration by eating fresh fruits and vegetables, because most of your fruits are 70 to 80% water. Some of
mm,
your vegetables are as high as 90% water.
yeah.
So when you're eating your water, you're not just eating the hydration, but you eating the nutrients that you need for the hydration for the liquids or the hot water to actually hydrate your body.
Yeah. What are some of the
And
minerals that we need in our body in order for us to absorb that? The
that is a good question that I haven't memorized. I normally look at my notes for
Yeah,
that one, so
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have
yeah.
the exact. I don't have that one on the top of my head.
Okay, okay,
Um, but there was one point that I was about to make. Oh, for
yeah,
people who are drinking water, you still want to drink about half of your body's weight in ounces of water. So I'll give you simple math to make that make sense. If you
okay,
weigh 100 pounds, you need to be drinking 50 ounces of water in a day. So you can take the math of how much you weigh and determine how much water you need to be drinking. And
okay.
that's just to keep your body flush.
Got it. Okay. Um, yeah, that's all good stuff because I think just the maintaining of keeping us fresh and like you said, people walking around dehydrated. Uh, I'm sure I'm sure I'm dehydrated right now. And I've also heard that, and let me know how this is, but yeah, I've also heard that if you add a little bit of salt into your water, that helps.
Yeah, and so
Or is that
sodium is one of the minerals that your body needs to absorb it. However, you
got it?
don't want to drink water that has salt added, meaning a lot of the prepackaged waters, like I will never drink a Pure Life or Aquafina because they have
Right.
sodium chloride. They have all of these chemically added salts.
I see. Got it.
And so, and that's why if you've ever drink a bottle of water and you're like, why do I still feel thirsty after drinking it? It's
Mm-hmm.
because there's too much of that salt in there.
I see. Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
But if you really want to make your water more absorbable, squeeze a little lemon or a little lime in it.
What does that do?
One is going to help with your digestive system, but it's also going to help with the absorption.
Okay. What do you recommend people? Let's say you just got back from the doctor, right? You have a diagnosis that's not favorable. You know, be it you've got higher cholesterol, higher blood pressure, maybe diabetes. What is something that you can do right now to start getting yourself
Yep.
on the straight and narrow?
Back in line. I'll go
Yeah.
back to my 4 moves. The first
Yep.
thing you have to do is eliminate the things that cause the problem in the first place. Because any diagnosis that you have, any disease in the body, is just the body showing symptoms of being out of balance.
Hmm.
And that balance starts with your gut. So the first thing you have to do is eliminate the processed foods, eliminate the dairy, eliminate the meat, because these are disrupting your gut microbe. The next thing you have to do is flood your body with nutrients. So eating as much whole foods that come from plants as possible. I'm not saying that you have to eat raw. That is
Mm-hmm.
helpful. However, eating whole foods that come from plants, meaning when you look at it, you can still see what it is, or the ingredients are 7 or less.
Yeah.
The third thing is you have to move your body, because your lymphatic system is responsible for your immune response, and your lymphatic system is what's responsible for removing cellular waste. And I say cellular waste, let me explain that a little deeper. Every time you have a cell that is not functioning at its proper way, or it's dying, or it's cell walls, the mitochondria, whatever, however deep in the science you want to go with it, once that cell is not working properly, your lymphatic system is responsible for removing it. Well, your lymphatic system, if you're not moving every day, your lymphatic system will get bogged down. If you're not sleeping properly, because sleep is when your lymphatic system goes through and runs the check of what cells are good, what cells are bad,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like a roll call, for
Right.
lack of a better way of saying it. And
Yeah.
so those are the first 3 steps. And then the last one is managing your stress, because we can think ourselves sick.
Mm-hmm. This is true. I kind of want to go in a little bit too. Dad, if you have any questions here, just jump in. I'm just, I'm kind of going. But I have a question about, moving your body and the lymphatic system, and sort of why is that such an important element to that? Like, what about yeah.
No, so you're gonna say, what about the what?
I was going to say, what about the lymphatic system specifically that, moves, you said it moves.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your lymphatic system is what's responsible for your immune response. So
Mm-hmm.
your most people say the immune system is what gets rid of disease or different things. Well, that's actually the lymphatic system, because in your lymph nodes are tons of little bacteria that, when it sees that a cell is not working properly, it brings it in, it does what it does, and then it sends it down to the pancreas, the liver, and the kidneys to be
Mm-hmm.
expelled. And so
Right.
movement is what activates the lymphatic system, movement or massage.
Got it. I see. So
Because
it keeps it active so they're not as dormant.
right. So the
Got it.
lymphatic
Okay.
system is basically like the waste management system of the body. So I
Mm-hmm.
always use the example, if you lived in your apartment and you never took the trash out for an entire year, it'd be pretty bad in there, right?
Yeah. Right.
Where your lymphatic system is the trash truck that comes around every week to make sure that they can pick up the trash that you put out each day.
Okay. Got it. That's good. That's good to know. So you can, so people are walking around with apartments full of trash. They just need a bigger trash can to get rid of some of this
No, they just
some
need
of
to
this
take the
waste.
trash out. They need to
Yeah.
take the trash out, and moving your body is what's going to activate that. Even if it's dance,
Got it.
it's walking, it's just, and also moving your body, just contracting your muscles releases endorphins that make you happier.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
that's great. It's all. I think it's all really good stuff. You know, we've had a few hiccups here with the internet, so I don't know exactly how much time, but I know that we want to. I want to respect your time. So, um, Dad, do you have any other last questions before we move on to the
No,
last four?
this has been really great, very informative, and also to just be here with you and just hear your journey and what you're doing and how you're actually accomplishing your goals is very informative. Yeah, very impressive. Thank you.
Give thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so we got four. We have some questions for you for the last little bit here. So, what? Where are these questions? Oh, here they are. Okay, so what advice would you give people who are, um, starting out on this journey? Like, what advice would you give them?
The first piece of advice that I would give, and I give to everybody, keep it simple. Don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like you have to do everything all at once. Even though going cold veggie is getting rid of everything at once, but don't feel like you have to go from 0 to 100. And don't try to live my life. Make it fit you. So if that means you have to meal prep on Saturdays and Sundays, do that. If you have to find a meal prep company, if you have to start to eat out a little bit to help you get a sense of what you like, keep it simple and keep an open mind. Try things, because there's a food that you didn't like before going plant based, that after you go plant based and your taste buds reset, you'll probably like it again. So even if you don't like it the first time, try it a second time.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so if you could wave a magic wand, you know, what change would you want to see in the world?
If I could wave a magic wand and see change in the world, everybody would be able to understand everyone else, because it's
Mm.
the lack of understanding that creates the conflict and the separation.
Mm. That's great. What are you working on at the moment?
Working on at the moment, I am relaunching my 12-week coaching program, because I am shifting from focusing on just weight loss with my 90-day program to my 12-week, which is going to be about helping people that are dealing with metabolic syndrome, overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol.
Mm.
And I am planning a speaking tour for 2024.
Nice.
Are you
So
coming
where can people find
our
you
way?
to?
I'm definitely coming out there to California.
That's awesome.
I
Good.
did I hosted a party out there in, what is that place? Not Sacramento, San Francisco. Nope, wasn't San Francisco either.
San Jose,
San Jose.
Nope, one of
San
those
Fernando.
places. Somewhere over there, I forget. San Diego. That's what it's called.
Oh, San
San
Diego.
Diego.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
North,
Yeah,
south. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
yeah.
came to San Diego, but I would love to do street fair. I want to go visit Chef Babette's
Nice.
restaurant, because I was actually on a speaker panel with her this year,
Oh, awesome.
and so got to meet her, and she was a fantastic. So yes, definitely planning on coming out there to LA.
Perfect.
And what was the other question, or what was the second part of that question?
So just what are you up to?
Oh no,
What are
that's
you
no,
working on?
you were about to ask. No, I answered that when you were asking me where can people find me.
Oh
So
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
people can find me across all social platforms at Coach Robert Moore, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. My
Nice.
website is also coachrobertmoore.com. I keep it simple.
Perfect. Yes, that's great.
Nice.
That's the model right here. That's like the motto for this episode is keep it simple. So if people want to get the courses, they go to the website. They want to find more information about you, they go to the any sort of social media.
Any one of those social
Perfect.
platforms, and I am
Great.
very active in my direct message. So if you have a question, you can send me that question, and we'll get an answer for you, so you can get the information you need to make the decisions you need to see your health improve.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for
That's
joining
awesome.
us
Beautiful.
today. It was a pleasure. You answered all the questions. So that was great. I had all these questions about
Yeah,
little
thanks. I
things, but
Thank
appreciate
you
you
so
having me.
much.
yeah. Okay. All right. We'll see you. We'll see you next time.
All right, appreciate it. So before we go, I always like to tell everybody,
Yes.
find your reason to live healthy. Peace.
Thank you.
All right, so we just had Coach Robert Moore on. What a great interview. He's got a lot going on, and I'm just looking forward to taking some of what he was teaching us in this episode, and then like kind of putting it into practice. Actually, that's one of the big things I've taken away.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think, you notice also, because I actually talked to him about his head wrap,
Yeah.
and it's very, very significant for him because it's a reminder to him also that he's got a higher calling, and I really appreciate that so
Nice.
much in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so it was a great interview.
Yeah. Very
Very,
good.
very good.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. See you guys later.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Green Carpet Interviews. We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
This show was brought to you by Veg on the Edge, our vegan restaurant in Santa Cruz and San Luis Obispo. If you're in the area, be sure to stop by and check out our delicious plant-based dishes. Check out vegontheedge.com for more information.
To stay connected with us and learn more about conscious living, follow us on Instagram at Green Carpet Interviews. We love hearing from our listeners and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Green Carpet Interviews.